The desert stretches endlessly, a sea of sand shaped by time itself, where wind whispers secrets older than our memory. Here, in this quiet expanse, rise the pyramids, monuments that have endured thousands of years, standing as both question and answer, as both presence and silence. They are enormous, immovable, yet somehow intimate, as though each stone carries the weight of human thought, human wonder, and human desire to reach beyond the fleeting moment. When we gaze upon them, we are not merely observing stone, we are listening to echoes that have traveled through centuries, resonating in a rhythm that the modern world almost forgets to notice. There is a stillness here, profound and almost tangible, a silence punctuated only by the occasional drift of wind or the distant call of a lone bird. It is a silence that invites reflection, that nudges the mind toward questions it may not even know it is asking. Who were the hands that placed these stones? What minds conceived the angles, the precise alignments, the mysterious geometry? And beneath the surface, hidden from our sight, could there lie something even more profound, something that has been waiting quietly for us to discover? These questions are not loud, they do not demand immediate answers. Instead, they drift through the mind like slow-moving clouds, settling softly into thought, leaving room for wonder to take hold. We are trained to seek certainty, to measure and classify, yet the pyramids resist simple explanation. They remind us that some knowledge may not yet be ours to grasp, that history may carry depths beyond the pages of books, beyond what archaeology has unearthed. Walking through the desert toward these monuments, one senses the passage of time in a way that is difficult to articulate. The wind, the shifting sands, the unbroken horizon, all of it forms a rhythm that seems eternal, a pulse in which human life is both fleeting and, in a strange sense, connected to everything that has come before. The pyramids are not simply relics, they are vessels, silent and enduring, capable of holding memory, knowledge, and perhaps even questions that outlast the lives of those who built them. To consider what may lie beneath their foundations is to consider the very nature of memory and time, to wonder what traces of human intention survive in forms that are hidden from immediate view. These structures exist in contrast to the impermanence of our own lives. Cities rise and fall, governments change, empires crumble, yet the pyramids remain. Their permanence is unsettling, yet comforting, for in them we sense a continuity, a bridge across millennia that connects the fleeting present to something far older and more enduring. This continuity invites a quiet contemplation. Perhaps the past is not only a story told in fragments, but a living presence that surrounds us, shaping our understanding even when it remains unseen. Beneath the surface of the desert, beneath the deliberate arrangement of stone, there may lie messages from those who came long before us, waiting patiently for recognition, for understanding. And yet, the pyramids are not merely human achievements, they are conversations with the cosmos. Their alignment with the stars, their geometry, the careful placement of each block, all hint at a relationship between humanity and the wider universe. This connection is subtle, often overlooked, but it is there, as tangible as the stones themselves, as elusive as the wind that moves across the desert. To lie beneath the night sky in their shadow is to feel both infinitesimal and infinite, a participant in a story that is at once personal and cosmic. This duality, the grounding weight of stone and the infinite stretch of the heavens, forms the essence of what draws us to these monuments, the reason why we return again and again in thought, imagination, and curiosity. The desert does not hurry. The sands shift slowly, imperceptibly, but with certainty. Time flows differently here, minutes stretch, and hours dissolve into something more like contemplation than measurement. In this space, it becomes natural to ask the questions that are often quieted by daily life. What do we truly know of history? What knowledge might have been lost, buried, or deliberately hidden? Could the pyramids, these silent sentinels of stone, hold secrets that, if revealed, would challenge the very narratives we have long held as truth? These are not questions that demand immediate answers, and perhaps they never will. Instead, they are invitations, gentle prompts for reflection, for imagining possibilities beyond the boundaries of conventional thought. And so we begin our journey here, in the desert, surrounded by silence, in the shadow of these immense monuments. There is a rhythm to this silence, a cadence that encourages the mind to wander slowly and deliberately. We move from wonder to reflection, from curiosity to contemplation, tracing the outlines of questions that may have been asked by countless generations before us. The pyramids, in their quiet grandeur, are patient teachers, guiding us through a meditation on history, on human intention, and on the mysteries that remain hidden beneath stone. In their presence, we are invited to consider the extraordinary, to let imagination mingle with scientific curiosity, to drift gently toward understanding without ever demanding certainty. Every grain of sand carries a story, every block a thought frozen in time. Beneath these stories may lie something more, an idea, a memory, or perhaps even a truth that has escaped human record. We move forward slowly, feeling the weight of both the visible and invisible, allowing the mind to relax into a rhythm that balances wonder with calm reflection. Here, in the stillness of the desert, the pyramids stand as both question and answer, as both challenge and comfort, drawing us into a journey that will unfold not only across space, but through time itself. The journey begins not with revelation, but with patient observation, with quiet recognition that the unknown may hold more than the known, and that the act of wondering itself is both necessary and restorative. In this way, we step softly into a story that is as much about the mind as it is about history. The pyramids invite us to listen, to imagine, and to drift slowly into contemplation. They remind us that the past is not merely behind us, but beneath us, surrounding us, and sometimes waiting to be uncovered. And in this gentle invitation, the desert teaches us its first lesson, that silence, patience, and wonder are as enduring as stone, and that the most profound discoveries often begin not with certainty, but with the quiet, deliberate act of noticing. Long before the first stone was placed atop another, long before the desert itself seemed permanent, stories began to take shape. They were stories whispered by the wind, carried along the banks of the Nile, and etched into memory by those who came before us. These were not merely tales of kings and queens, of battles and triumphs, but something deeper, stories that might be fragments of memory, traces of experiences that predated recorded history. In these myths, gods walked the earth, and the universe itself seemed alive, responsive, and almost sentient. Time flowed differently there, elastic and expansive, a river bending around lives, choices, and forgotten truths. As we consider these legends now, we can imagine that within them lie threads of forgotten knowledge, echoes of human experience that civilization itself has nearly lost. The gods of Egypt were not distant abstractions. They were intimate presences, imprinted onto the rhythms of life. Ra's journey across the sky marked the passage of day and night. Osiris, hidden in the cycle of death and rebirth, spoke to an understanding of mortality that modern thought struggles to capture. Isis and Horus carried lessons of protection, succession, and the invisible bonds that tie humans together across generations. And yet, beneath the divine narratives, there may have been practical truths, hidden patterns, and knowledge encoded for those who could perceive beyond the literal words. Could it be that myths were a form of ancient record-keeping, a way to preserve insights about the world, the stars, and even human consciousness itself? These are questions that do not demand answers, but they invite quiet curiosity, a gentle meditation on what is known, what is remembered, and what is forever beyond reach. In contemplating these stories, one cannot help but notice how they mirror the structures around which they emerged. The pyramids themselves seem to echo the narratives that shaped the culture, layered, complex, and capable of carrying meaning across centuries. Each god, each mythological episode, reflects a harmony between human experience and cosmic observation. The stories encode cycles of the sun and moon, the flooding of the Nile, and the passage of time in ways that are both practical and poetic. To listen to these myths is to hear the rhythm of an ancient civilization, a civilization that spoke in the language of symbols, in allegories, in metaphors that were as much about survival and understanding as they were about wonder. The persistence of these myths is remarkable. They endure in the fragments of papyrus, in carvings upon stone, in rituals passed down through generations. Yet even as we study them, a sense of incompleteness lingers, a subtle reminder that much has been lost or deliberately hidden. For every story that survives, countless others have faded into the void, leaving only hints of wisdom beneath layers of culture, conquest, and the slow erosion of time. In their gaps, we are invited to imagine the unseen, to wonder at what knowledge may have been recorded in ways that escape ordinary perception, and to consider that beneath the pyramids themselves, some of these truths may remain, waiting for patient discovery. These myths were not static. They evolved, adapted, and merged with the realities of daily life. They informed decisions, shaped rituals, and influenced how humans interacted with the land, the sky, and one another. They were practical, yet transcendent, guiding behavior while simultaneously pointing toward something greater than any single individual could grasp. In this interplay between practicality and transcendence, between what is spoken and what is hidden, we sense the earliest stirrings of a human desire to reach beyond the tangible, to record experience in forms that outlast a single lifetime. The pyramids, with their geometric precision and enduring presence, may have been a physical manifestation of this same desire, a stone mirror to the living myths that swirled around them. Perhaps myths themselves are a kind of archaeology of the mind. They preserve not just history, but perception, imagination, and insight. They are vessels that carry human consciousness across time, blending observation with interpretation, the empirical with the poetic. In listening to these myths, we do more than reconstruct the past. We participate in an ancient dialogue between the known and the unknowable, between what is revealed and what remains deliberately obscured. Beneath the pyramids, these stories might find physical form, inscribed not in words alone, but in alignment, structure, and hidden chambers, each carrying echoes of a civilization's deepest understandings. We can imagine, for a moment, the first builders of the pyramids as they moved stones in synchrony with the rhythms of myth. Their actions may have been guided not only by necessity, but by a kind of reverence for memory and story, a desire to encode meaning into stone. Each block could carry symbolism, each passageway an intentional path of reflection, each hidden chamber a sanctuary for the ideas too fragile or profound to be exposed to the light of common knowledge. In this light, the pyramids themselves are extensions of myth, structures that make tangible what stories alone could not fully contain, allowing knowledge to endure in silence and secrecy. As we sit with these thoughts, the desert around us stretches quiet and infinite. The wind moves in soft, deliberate pulses, as if breathing life into the stories it carries. We are reminded that myths are not merely old tales, they are living currents, flowing from the past into the present, shaping how we perceive the world even now. They invite us to slow down, to listen, to let the imagination drift, and to sense that within the layers of narrative and memory, there may exist truths too subtle to measure, yet profound enough to shift our understanding of human history, consciousness, and the hidden worlds beneath the stones. In this meditative space, we hold both curiosity and reverence. The myths of Egypt whisper of time, of memory, of knowledge that transcends generations. They invite us to explore not only the world above the surface but the potential worlds below it, beneath the pyramid's enormous stones. And as we allow ourselves to drift deeper into this reflection, we prepare to move gently toward the mysteries that await, to consider the hidden layers of history, and to feel the quiet, enduring resonance of stories that have survived millennia, still alive in the hush of the desert, still echoing beneath the sun and the stars. The pyramids rise not only from the sands of the desert, but from the weight of human intention, ambition, and curiosity. Each stone, carefully placed, resonates with the echoes of countless hands, bodies, and minds that labored over its positioning, guided by precision, tradition, and perhaps a deeper understanding that we can only glimpse through the veil of time. They are at once immovable and intimate, monuments that bear the imprint of both the collective and the individual, a testament to the enduring human desire to reach beyond immediate existence. To stand before them is to feel a peculiar blend of awe and humility, as if the stones themselves hold a memory of effort and thought that is both eternal and profoundly human. One cannot help but wonder about the scale of knowledge that went into their construction. The alignment with celestial bodies, the internal passages, the geometry, and the sheer magnitude of effort all speak to an understanding of the natural world that surpasses what we often assume of ancient societies. Every aspect seems deliberate, as if the builders were communicating with forces beyond the visible, the stars, the earth, and the continuum of time itself. There is a quiet poetry in this, a sense that human effort, when guided by purpose and observation, can resonate with the rhythms of the cosmos. The pyramids stand not merely as monuments to kings or power, but as reflections of a civilization's deepest engagement with order, structure, and meaning. Yet even as we marvel at the precision, the beauty, and the scale of these structures, a subtle tension emerges. For all that is visible, there is much that is hidden. Beneath the massive stones, behind walls that have withstood millennia, there may lie spaces untouched by modern eyes. We know, through scans and radar, that voids exist, chambers that remain unexplored, corridors whose purpose we cannot fully discern. This tension between what we can see and what remains concealed creates a sense of mystery that is almost palpable. The pyramids, in this way, are not static relics. They are invitations to contemplation, doors into hidden layers of knowledge, memory, and perhaps even intention that extend beyond human record. The physicality of the stones themselves is mesmerizing. One can imagine the rhythm of labor, hands smoothing surfaces, ropes straining against weight, levers guiding enormous blocks into place. The human body, in its strength, persistence, and ingenuity, becomes a part of the monument. There is a poetry in movement here, in the interplay of effort and result, of human capability matched with precise understanding. Even today, with modern machinery, we struggle to replicate such feats, and yet, these ancient builders achieved them with ingenuity, observation, and patience. Every block is a note in a silent symphony, an articulation of purpose frozen in time, capable of conveying meaning without uttering a single word. And yet, as immense as they are, the pyramids are not monuments solely to physical labor. They are monuments to thought, to planning, and perhaps to philosophy. The careful alignment with cardinal points, the integration of chambers and corridors, and the repetition of patterns suggest that the architects were thinking in layers, spatial, temporal, symbolic, and perhaps spiritual. There is a suggestion that the act of building was also an act of understanding, a way to encode knowledge into matter itself. To consider this is to reflect on the intimate relationship between human thought and human creation, on the capacity to embed meaning into what endures beyond the fleeting lives of those who shape it. The contrast between permanence and impermanence becomes especially striking here. The desert shifts, erodes, and renews, yet the pyramids remain. Generations of wind and sand have attempted to wear them down, yet the structures endure, unyielding, holding secrets that the ages have failed to fully reveal. They are reminders that human knowledge, when carefully preserved, can persist far beyond the span of an individual life or even a civilization. And perhaps, in their enduring silence, they invite us to consider what it means to leave a mark on the world, what it means to communicate across millennia, and what kind of messages might be deliberately concealed, waiting for those who will listen patiently and imaginatively. We are drawn, inevitably, to the spaces that lie beneath the visible. The great chambers, the corridors, the voids detected through technology, all hint at a knowledge hidden in plain sight. Could these spaces have been repositories of wisdom, records of earlier civilizations, or intentional messages for those who would come after? The mind is tempted to fill the gaps with possibility, to imagine what might lie hidden, and in doing so, it begins a subtle meditation on the nature of human curiosity, discovery, and imagination. The pyramids, in this sense, become mirrors for the mind, reflecting both what we know and what we hope to understand, both the visible and the hidden. And as we consider these hidden spaces, there is a sense of quiet patience that permeates the experience. The pyramids do not rush revelation. They do not offer their secrets easily. They wait, enduring and unmoved, teaching us the value of slow observation, of reflection without immediate answers. In this way, they are not merely monuments to human achievement. They are guides to contemplation, drawing the observer into a state of calm, introspective wonder. The act of standing before them, of imagining the labor, the knowledge, and the hidden spaces, becomes a meditation on time, effort, and the enduring mysteries of human history. In this silence, one begins to sense the resonance of thought across generations. The pyramids are more than stone. They are thought-made material, a conversation across time between those who built and those who come to witness, between intention and perception, between what is seen and what remains invisible. Every angle, every stone, every shadow holds the potential for insight, for reflection, and for quiet wonder. We begin to understand that to engage with these monuments is not simply to study history, but to participate in a dialogue with it, to feel the weight of human endeavor, and to sense the depths of knowledge that may yet lie hidden, waiting to be perceived. And so, in the stillness of the desert, as the sun moves slowly across the sky, we are invited into contemplation. We feel the permanence of stone and the impermanence of life, the visible labor and the invisible thought, the known and the hidden. The pyramids, silent and patient, guide us toward a deeper understanding of human potential, of history, and of mystery itself. And in this reflection, we take our first steps toward the journey beneath the stones, toward the hidden truths that may, one day, challenge what we think we know, inviting both curiosity and the gentle surrender of the mind to wonder. Beneath the towering stones of the pyramids lies a world largely hidden from sight, a realm of silence and shadow where the past lingers in waiting. These subterranean spaces are not merely empty voids. They are the secret chapters of human ambition, memory, and perhaps even knowledge, preserved under layers of stone and sand. Modern science has given us glimpses into these hidden depths, revealing voids and chambers that were once inaccessible, corridors that hint at purpose and design beyond our immediate comprehension. Yet even with the most advanced technology, the pyramids retain their air of mystery, reminding us that there is always more than meets the eye, and that the universe often keeps its truths patiently veiled. The idea of hidden chambers invites both imagination and reflection. What might these spaces contain? Could they hold relics of a civilization's understanding that were deemed too precious or dangerous to reveal to ordinary eyes? Could they be records of knowledge, maps of the cosmos, or repositories of wisdom left deliberately for those capable of perceiving it? We cannot know for certain, and perhaps certainty is not the point. Instead, the hidden chambers become mirrors for the mind, places where curiosity drifts freely, where speculation blends seamlessly with observation, and where the act of wondering is as important as any potential discovery. The unseen, in this sense, becomes a meditation, a quiet space for the mind to expand without pressure or urgency. Science has provided tools to peer into these depths, yet the process itself carries a rhythm of patience. Ground-penetrating radar, cosmic ray imaging, and other advanced techniques allow us to sense voids without disturbing the stones, creating outlines of spaces that may hold secrets. Even these glimpses are partial, shadows of what might be, leaving the imagination to fill in the gaps. The contrast between what is revealed and what remains concealed is part of the meditation. The pyramids reveal their presence without fully disclosing their intent, encouraging a quiet engagement that blends awe, curiosity, and reflection. The unknown is not threatening here. It is inviting, softening the boundaries of certainty, and lulling the mind into a contemplative state. One cannot help but consider the intent of those who built these hidden spaces. Were they meant as tombs, as repositories, or as symbols of something larger, perhaps incomprehensible to us now? Perhaps they were all of these, or perhaps their purpose was deliberately ambiguous, designed to speak in multiple layers, to guide the observer slowly toward understanding. The deliberate concealment of these chambers suggests a reverence for knowledge, a recognition that some truths are too fragile, too complex, or too dangerous to be revealed without preparation. In this thought, there is a gentle lesson about patience, humility, and respect for the mysteries of the past. The spaces beneath the pyramids also invite contemplation of the human desire to leave a mark beyond mortality. We see in these hidden chambers the manifestation of an impulse that persists across cultures and ages, the need to create something enduring, something that outlasts individual life, something that communicates with future generations. Yet unlike the visible majesty of the pyramids above, These hidden realms speak quietly, without fanfare, demanding only patience and attention. They remind us that human ingenuity and intention can exist on multiple planes, visible and invisible, tangible and abstract, immediate and eternal. Exploring the possibility of these chambers, one begins to sense the layers of time itself. Each stone above them has weathered centuries, each grain of sand carries memory. Beneath, the chambers may preserve knowledge untouched by climate, war, or decay. There is a meditation in imagining the centuries passing silently above, the world evolving outside, while these spaces remain untouched, holding echoes of human thought, creativity, and perhaps even understanding. The juxtaposition of permanence above and potential secrets below invites a reflective rhythm, a sense that time is both linear and cyclical, moving around us as we move through it, whispering possibilities to those who pause to listen. The mystery of these spaces encourages us to dwell in imagination without urgency. We are invited to consider the pyramids not only as monuments but as living entities, repositories of human endeavor, waiting for discovery in forms that may forever escape our full comprehension. In doing so, we sense that the act of wondering itself is a form of participation in history. To contemplate the hidden is to honor the builders, to feel a connection across millennia, and to recognize that knowledge and meaning often exist beyond the immediacy of observation. Silence becomes a teacher, and curiosity becomes a companion in the slow, deliberate journey toward understanding. There is also a sense of scale that emerges in considering the hidden. The pyramids above us are already monumental, yet beneath the surface, the spaces may be vast or intricate, forming a secret architecture that mirrors or even transcends what we see. They remind us that human ambition is not always outward. It often moves inward, seeking depth as well as height, understanding as well as visibility. In this meditation, the hidden chambers become a metaphor for consciousness itself, the visible mind, the conscious self, and the hidden depths, where thoughts, memories, and knowledge reside beyond immediate perception, waiting to be gently explored. And so, we linger in this quiet reflection, imagining the mysteries beneath the pyramids without forcing answers. We feel the stillness, the layers of time, and the patient preservation of thought and intention. The hidden chambers are not puzzles to be solved quickly but invitations to mindfulness, contemplation, and wonder. They teach us that beneath what we can see lies a universe of possibility, a slow and deliberate rhythm of creation, preservation, and perhaps wisdom, waiting for those who are willing to move softly, listen carefully, and allow the mind to drift into the uncharted spaces of both history and imagination. Time itself seems to move differently in the desert, where the pyramids rise, silent and unyielding. It is not merely the passage of hours or centuries that we sense here, but a deeper rhythm, an unfolding that stretches beyond human perception. The desert is patient, and so are the monuments it shelters. Wind sculpts sand over stone, slowly erasing footprints yet leaving the pyramids unshaken. Rivers have come and gone, civilizations have risen and fallen, and the stars have shifted their paths across the night sky, yet these stones endure, as if in quiet conversation with time itself. To stand among them is to feel the pulse of history, both human and cosmic, and to sense that time is not simply a measure of change but a vast, flowing continuum in which life, memory, and intention are embedded. The relationship between the pyramids and time invites reflection on the forces that shape them. Geological processes, subtle shifts in the earth, and the erosion of millennia all leave their mark, yet the structures remain astonishingly precise. It is a reminder that the natural world and human endeavor exist in dialogue, that creation is both constrained by and responsive to the rhythms of the environment. The builders of the pyramids understood, perhaps intuitively, the slow, inexorable flow of time, and they shaped their work in harmony with it. Each stone, each angle, each corridor speaks not only of labor and skill but of a consciousness attuned to cycles larger than immediate perception. In this way, the pyramids are instruments of time, recording its passage as much as they endure it. Astronomy, too, played a role in shaping both the monuments and the minds of those who built them. The alignment of the pyramids with certain stars, The positioning of chambers relative to celestial bodies suggests a profound understanding of the heavens. Time, as observed in the night sky, was not abstract but lived and measured, intimately connected to the rhythms of survival, agriculture, and ritual. The Egyptians may have seen themselves as part of a larger cosmic order, and the pyramids became a physical manifestation of this perception, a dialogue between human awareness and the vast cycles of the universe. To contemplate this is to feel the gentle enormity of time, a rhythm that encompasses not only centuries but millennia, and perhaps stretches even beyond human comprehension. Time also shapes the layers of history preserved within the pyramids. Each era has left traces upon them, from construction to modifications, to the decay and rediscovery of forgotten passages. The stones themselves carry evidence of long-forgotten events, weathered inscriptions, and subtle markings that hint at purposes and intentions that remain partially obscured. To sense these layers is to participate in a meditation on permanence and impermanence, on the persistence of human effort, and on the quiet persistence of nature's own influence. The pyramids are at once frozen in time and dynamic, living monuments that interact with the passage of millennia in ways both observable and imagined. Considering time as an architect encourages us to reflect on cycles far larger than human life. Erosion, deposition, and tectonic shifts remind us that the Earth itself is alive in slow motion, and that civilizations exist within these vast movements. The pyramids, built with careful attention to alignment and structure, seem to acknowledge this rhythm. Perhaps their hidden chambers are placed in accordance not only with human plans but also with natural forces, ensuring preservation across centuries. This awareness of natural cycles, whether intentional or intuitive, reflects a deep engagement with time as a living force, shaping both the visible and hidden aspects of human creation. Time also becomes a mirror of human memory. The pyramids preserve not only physical form but the echoes of ideas, beliefs, and knowledge. These structures, layered with meaning and possibility, embody the patience required for both creation and understanding. Just as centuries have layered sand over stone, human experience layers knowledge and imagination over observation. In contemplating these pyramids, one begins to sense that knowledge, when carefully encoded, can endure beyond immediate perception, waiting to be interpreted by minds willing to engage patiently, reflectively, and imaginatively. Time, in this sense, is both guardian and teacher, preserving the past while inviting contemplation of its deeper significance. The passage of time also magnifies contrast, the fleeting human life against the enduring stone, the ephemeral moment against millennia of existence. This contrast invites a reflective stillness, a meditation on perspective, patience, and humility. The builders understood, whether consciously or instinctively, that their efforts were part of a continuum far larger than themselves, that the pyramids would endure as both monuments and teachers. The silent dialogue between time and stone encourages us to recognize our own place within the rhythm of history, to feel the fleeting nature of our own experiences while sensing the endurance of human thought and creativity across generations. Long before the pyramids rose from the sands, before even the earliest written records, there may have existed civilizations whose memory has been all but lost to time. These first societies, now hidden in the shadows of history, left traces that are subtle, delicate, and often overlooked. Yet, perhaps some of their knowledge endured, encoded not in books or scrolls, but in structures, symbols, and alignments that survive to this day. The pyramids themselves may be among the most profound of these traces, monumental markers of human intention that speak to a wisdom beyond what conventional history has recorded. To consider the possibility of a civilization predating the known Egyptian era is to drift into a quiet space of imagination and reflection, a place where curiosity and reverence mingle, and where the mind begins to explore possibilities without urgency or demand. There is a peculiar stillness in the thought of first civilizations, a patience in imagining societies whose lives have left little visible trace, yet whose ideas may have been monumental. Perhaps they understood principles of mathematics, astronomy, or human organization that we are only now rediscovering. Perhaps they encoded this knowledge in stone, in geometry, or in subterranean spaces meant to endure beyond the rise and fall of empires. The hidden chambers beneath the pyramids might be remnants of this ancient understanding, spaces designed with precision and intent, awaiting discovery by those patient enough to seek them. In imagining this, the mind enters a state of gentle exploration, contemplating the depth and continuity of human ingenuity across epochs. The idea of a first civilization invites a reconsideration of history itself. If knowledge existed before recorded time, it challenges the notion that human advancement is linear. Civilizations may rise, fall, and leave fragments behind, yet these fragments carry profound insight. The pyramids, in this view, are not merely monuments of a single era but perhaps milestones in a continuum of intelligence and creativity, echoing ideas that predate the dynasties we have long studied. To meditate on this possibility is to embrace uncertainty with calm curiosity, to allow the imagination to drift through layers of forgotten time, and to recognize that history is more fluid and intricate than any text can fully capture. Science, too, offers glimpses into these hidden currents. Geological and architectural analyses reveal anomalies, patterns, alignments, and constructions that seem to transcend the known techniques of the era. There are structures within structures, voids that defy simple explanation, and precision in measurements that suggest an advanced understanding of space, weight, and proportion. These observations spark quiet wonder and gentle speculation. Could such knowledge have been inherited from a civilization lost to memory? The pyramids may then serve as both a bridge and a record, connecting what is known to what has been forgotten, preserving whispers of ingenuity from eras that existed long before conventional chronicles began. To consider the traces of a first civilization is also to reflect on human curiosity itself. Perhaps the builders of the pyramids were aware of what came before them, whether consciously or through inherited tradition. They may have been preserving, honoring, or expanding upon a foundation laid by minds now invisible to us. In doing so, they created not only monuments to their own era but also vessels of continuity, capturing fragments of ancient understanding in ways that endure across time. In this sense, history becomes a quiet river, flowing beneath the surface of recorded events, carrying the wisdom of civilizations lost, shaping human thought in subtle and enduring ways. The notion of hidden civilizations beneath or preceding the pyramids blurs the line between fact and possibility, encouraging the mind to dwell in wonder rather than certainty. What if knowledge survived not in manuscripts but in stone, in tunnels, in alignment with the stars? What if these early societies had mastered principles that we now struggle to rediscover? Imagining this is not an exercise in conjecture alone. It is a meditation on human potential, on the capacity for ingenuity that exists across ages, and on the enduring resilience of ideas that persist even when their authors have vanished. The hidden layers of the earth beneath the pyramids become a mirror for the hidden layers of human consciousness, inviting a contemplative journey inward as well as backward in time. There is a subtle poetry in imagining civilizations that have vanished from memory yet left enduring echoes. Each stone of the pyramid, each careful alignment, may carry not only practical purpose but also the imprint of knowledge, intention, and reverence. Perhaps these early builders were in dialogue with the cosmos, aware of cycles and rhythms that continue to guide the universe in silent precision. Perhaps they encoded lessons about life, mortality, and human understanding in forms meant to endure long after the creators themselves had disappeared. This quiet possibility invites reflection, allowing the mind to drift along paths that are both historical and philosophical, both speculative and profoundly calming. To dwell in these reflections is to acknowledge the vastness of time and the subtlety of memory. Human history, when seen as a continuum, suggests that knowledge does not disappear so much as it waits, patiently preserved in stone, in pattern, and in thought. The pyramids, standing for thousands of years, remind us that human intention can survive beyond the ephemeral sweep of generations, carrying with it lessons, ideas, and mysteries that quietly shape understanding. In contemplating a first civilization, we sense not only the potential of the past but also the patience required to perceive it, the humility necessary to acknowledge what we do not know, and the quiet joy of imagining what may yet be discovered. And so, As we meditate on the traces of civilizations lost to time, a gentle rhythm emerges. It is a rhythm of patience, reflection, and wonder, a cadence that mirrors the slow, deliberate passage of millennia. The hidden possibilities beneath the pyramids invite us to move softly through history, to listen without rushing, and to sense that knowledge, when carefully preserved, can endure far beyond our immediate understanding. In this meditation, we begin to see the pyramids not simply as monuments of a single people or era, but as bridges between the known and the unknown, between memory and imagination, and between what is revealed and what quietly awaits discovery beneath the stones.
There is a delicate tension between what we can measure and what we can only imagine, a space where science and mystery meet beneath the pyramids. Modern technology allows us to peer into structures once hidden, to map voids, passages, and chambers that have withstood the passage of millennia. Yet, even with the most advanced tools, much remains uncertain, elusive, and silent. Science provides a language of observation, of evidence, of probability, but it cannot fully capture the intangible rhythm of human intention, the quiet weight of knowledge embedded in stone, or the poetry of possibility that permeates hidden spaces. Here, in this overlap between certainty and speculation, the mind finds a gentle invitation to reflect, to drift, and to wonder. Exploring these spaces scientifically reveals patterns that hint at extraordinary understanding. The geometry of the pyramids, their precise alignments with celestial bodies, and the careful placement of chambers all suggest knowledge that extends beyond mere practicality. Measurements, ratios, and angles speak to a civilization attuned not only to the physical world but also to the rhythms of the cosmos. Yet, for every discovery that science offers, there are deeper questions. Why were these alignments chosen? What knowledge guided the construction? Could there have been a deliberate intention to encode information, perhaps even knowledge from a civilization preceding our recorded history? These questions linger in the quiet spaces between observation and speculation, forming a meditation on the limits of knowledge and the beauty of wonder. Science uncovers, but it also humbles. The more we examine, the more we encounter ambiguity. Ground-penetrating radar reveals voids and anomalies, but their purpose remains uncertain. Structural analysis identifies extraordinary precision, yet the methods of their achievement continue to spark debate. Chronology offers timelines, yet the echoes of lost civilizations suggest that history may be deeper and more layered than linear records imply. In this tension, between what we know and what we cannot yet prove, there is an invitation to embrace mystery with patience. The pyramids, silent and enduring, encourage a form of observation that blends curiosity with reverence, inquiry with reflection, and exploration with calm. Mystery, in this context, is not a void or an obstacle, it is a companion. It reminds us that human understanding is always partial, that knowledge is layered, and that the act of discovery is as much about patience and attention as it is about certainty. The hidden chambers beneath the pyramids may hold artifacts, inscriptions, or structures that provide clarity, or they may remain silent, communicating in ways subtle, symbolic, or entirely beyond our current perception. In either case, the presence of the unknown creates a rhythm of contemplation, inviting the mind to slow, to observe, and to dwell in quiet reflection, where curiosity becomes a gentle meditation. This balance between science and mystery also illuminates the interplay between human effort and cosmic context. The builders of the pyramids were not working in isolation. They were attuned to the earth beneath their feet, to the cycles of the sun and moon, and perhaps to patterns in the stars that remain invisible to modern observers without careful study. Science can detect these patterns, but it cannot fully convey the sense of reverence, purpose, or imagination that may have guided their creators. In this interplay, we sense the delicate conversation between human thought, natural law, and the vastness of the cosmos. A conversation preserved in stone, in alignment, and in the subtle spaces where mystery still thrives. Even as we examine the pyramids through scientific lenses, the unknown invites introspection. What drives humans to create, to explore, to leave enduring marks on the world? Perhaps it is not merely practical necessity, but a desire to engage with forces larger than ourselves, time, nature, the cosmos, and the continuity of human thought. The pyramids are physical embodiments of this desire, structures that exist both in measurable dimensions and in the realm of possibility. In contemplating them, we recognize that knowledge is not solely about accumulation of facts, but about engagement with wonder, awareness of limits, and openness to insight that may arrive slowly, subtly, and unexpectedly. There is also a profound lesson in humility embedded within the tension between science and mystery. Each discovery opens new avenues, but each answer reveals further questions. The pyramids, in their silent endurance, remind us that understanding is not immediate. It unfolds gradually, often in small increments, through patient attention and reflection. Hidden spaces, structural anomalies, and astronomical alignments all invite us to participate in this slow process, to honor the unknown as much as the known, and to appreciate the beauty of questions that may never receive final answers. In this embrace of uncertainty, the mind finds calm, curiosity, and a gentle rhythm that is conducive to reflection and sleep. Mystery also allows imagination to dwell alongside evidence, creating a space where thought becomes fluid. We may envision civilizations long gone, knowledge encoded in stone, or chambers designed to preserve wisdom beyond memory. We may contemplate the possibility that some alignments encode secrets yet to be understood, that voids conceal messages from minds long absent. Science gives us structure, but mystery gives us depth, inviting a dialogue that is both rational and poetic. Together, they create a gentle tension that encourages contemplation, as though the pyramids themselves are teaching us to balance observation with imagination, certainty with wonder, and measurement with reflection. And so, in the quiet spaces of the pyramids, science and mystery coexist, intertwined and complementary. One illuminates what can be observed, measured, and recorded. The other invites patient speculation, imagination, and meditation. Together, they form a rhythm, a gentle cadence of understanding and wonder, guiding the mind through layers of history, human intention, and cosmic connection. In their silence, the pyramids teach us that exploration is as much about slowing down and reflecting as it is about discovery, that the unknown is not an absence but a presence, a subtle, enduring companion that shapes perception, deepens curiosity, and invites the mind to drift into the calm, contemplative spaces where insight, imagination, and wonder converge. In this meditation, we learn to move softly, to observe without urgency, and to appreciate that knowledge is layered, both above and beneath the surface. The pyramids endure as bridges between what is known and what is hidden, between science and speculation, between the measurable and the imagined. They invite a quiet journey of the mind, where each step, each thought, and each reflection unfolds slowly, deliberately, and with reverence for the mysteries that await beneath stone, in alignment with the cosmos, and within the quiet depths of human curiosity.
Beneath the monumental stones of the pyramids, there may exist not only hidden chambers but hidden knowledge, carefully encoded and preserved, waiting for discovery. This knowledge is subtle, layered, and perhaps never meant to be fully revealed, for some truths may only be accessible to those who approach with patience, reverence, and imagination. The very act of encoding information into stone, geometry, and alignment suggests a civilization attuned to permanence, capable of translating abstract understanding into enduring form. It is a meditation on the human desire to preserve meaning beyond immediate lifetimes, to communicate with a future that has not yet arrived, and to leave behind whispers of insight in forms that endure far longer than the individuals who shaped them. We may never fully know the intentions of those who built the pyramids, yet there is evidence that knowledge and purpose were intertwined in subtle ways. The alignment of structures with celestial bodies, the precision of measurements, and the repetition of patterns suggest an understanding that transcended mere practicality. These choices were deliberate, hinting at principles of mathematics, astronomy, and human cognition preserved in forms that resist decay and distortion. To imagine the wisdom encoded within these stones is to enter a quiet state of reflection, where the mind drifts along pathways of thought stretching across millennia, exploring the possibility that some knowledge has been patiently waiting for discovery beneath the surface. The idea of encoded wisdom invites speculation not as a form of fantasy, but as a meditation on human continuity. Knowledge, once carefully preserved, can endure long after its creators have disappeared. The pyramids may serve as vessels for ideas that surpass a single lifetime or a single civilization, transmitting insights through time in the quiet language of structure, alignment, and geometry. Hidden chambers may hold further clues, yet even the absence of physical artifacts becomes a form of communication, signaling the importance of patience, observation, and respect for what is concealed. The pyramids, in this way, are both teaching and invitation, guiding the mind to recognize the enduring value of subtle, intentional preservation. Science has revealed some of this encoded wisdom, though often in fragmentary form. Ground-penetrating radar, cosmic ray imaging, and structural analysis provide glimpses into voids and chambers, revealing anomalies that hint at purpose beyond immediate comprehension. Measurements indicate extraordinary precision, angles suggest cosmic alignment, and structural features defy explanation by conventional understanding alone. These discoveries create a quiet tension. The more we know, the more we sense the depths of what remains hidden. It is a rhythm of curiosity and reflection, an acknowledgement that human knowledge is layered, and that each layer may contain wisdom encoded in forms beyond conventional perception. The possibility of encoded knowledge also prompts a meditation on human intention. Perhaps these structures were designed not only for ritual or tomb purposes but as repositories of insight, carefully crafted to survive the erosion of time and the loss of memory. The act of preserving wisdom in stone is itself an exercise in patience and foresight, a recognition that the passage of centuries need not erase meaning if it is encoded with care. The pyramids and the hidden chambers within them may thus represent a dialogue across time, a conversation between those who came before and those who come after, mediated through geometry, alignment, and structure. In contemplating this, we sense the quiet power of human foresight and the desire to communicate enduring truths to a future we may never meet. There is also a contemplative lesson in the idea of what remains hidden. Knowledge that is not immediately visible requires reflection, humility, and patience. The pyramids teach that understanding is not always granted through observation alone. Some truths must be approached slowly, with curiosity and care. The act of seeking becomes as important as the knowledge itself. The hidden spaces, the subtle alignments, and the encoded patterns are not merely objects of study, they are invitations to meditation, to engage with history and human intention on a deeper, more contemplative level. The pyramids, in this sense, are both vessel and guide, encouraging the observer to move gently, reflect patiently, and dwell in quiet contemplation of the layers of knowledge they may hold. Encoded knowledge beneath the pyramids also reflects a profound understanding of memory itself. Human experience, belief, and insight can be fragile, easily lost to time, neglect, or destruction. The act of embedding understanding into structures designed for permanence suggests a consciousness aware of the impermanence of human life and the enduring potential of human thought. These hidden chambers may contain lessons not only for survival, mathematics, or astronomy, but for reflection on existence, mortality, and the human desire to reach beyond the finite. The very silence of these spaces teaches patience and reverence, reinforcing the idea that discovery is as much about the inner journey as the external revelation. In imagining what may be encoded beneath the pyramids, the mind begins to perceive connections across space and time. The alignment of stone, voids within the structure, and subtle geometric relationships may reflect principles observed in the cosmos, human cognition, or natural patterns. Even without physical artifacts, these arrangements speak to an understanding that transcends ordinary observation. The pyramids, therefore, become instruments of knowledge, not only preserving insight but also teaching how to engage with it, slowly, attentively, and with a readiness to listen to subtle cues that might otherwise be overlooked. Ultimately, the pyramids and their hidden knowledge encourage a state of gentle contemplation. They remind us that wisdom is often layered, that some truths are preserved quietly, and that the act of searching is inseparable from the act of learning. In this space, imagination, curiosity, and reflection converge, creating a rhythm conducive to calm, focused meditation. The hidden chambers are not merely physical spaces. They are portals to deeper understanding, spaces where time, human intention, and the enduring pursuit of knowledge intersect, offering both mystery and insight to those who are willing to move softly, observe patiently, and allow their minds to drift into the quiet, contemplative spaces beneath the stones. And so, beneath the vast stones of the pyramids, a quiet possibility lingers. A possibility that knowledge has been preserved, patiently and deliberately, across millennia. This knowledge may speak to us in ways subtle, abstract, or symbolic, inviting patience, reflection, and imagination. In engaging with this possibility, we are drawn into a meditation on the persistence of human thought, the endurance of intention, and the profound connection between what is hidden, what is known, and what may one day be revealed. It is here, in these silent depths, that wonder takes hold, and the mind drifts gently into contemplation, carried by the rhythm of centuries and the quiet wisdom encoded beneath the enduring stones. The pyramids, in their silent grandeur, seem to speak across time, carrying echoes of human intention that stretch far beyond the lives of those who constructed them. Each stone, carefully measured and placed, is a testament not only to physical labor but to the deliberate choice to communicate, to leave something enduring behind. And yet, much of this communication is subtle, hidden beneath surfaces, tucked into voids, corridors, and alignments that demand attention, patience, and reverence to perceive. Perhaps the builders understood that messages of significance are rarely immediate. They are layered, encoded, and revealed gradually, often to those willing to approach with care, imagination, and quiet contemplation. To consider the possibility that the pyramids contain intentional messages is to enter a state of meditation on human consciousness and foresight. These structures are not merely functional or ceremonial. They are deliberate acts of preservation, embedding knowledge, ritual, and perhaps wisdom for the distant future. Could the hidden chambers have been designed to teach, to guide, or to inspire those who come after? Might they contain instructions for understanding the cosmos, insights into the cycles of life and death, or reflections on existence itself? In this way, the pyramids become more than monuments. They are vessels of intention, subtle teachers bridging millennia, offering lessons to anyone willing to pause, observe, and reflect. The idea of messages intended for future generations suggests an awareness of continuity beyond the individual and the immediate society. The builders may have imagined a world far removed from their own, a future civilization that would inherit not only stone and structure but knowledge and wisdom. These messages, encoded through geometry, alignment, and spatial design, reflect a profound understanding of human perception and the passage of time. They suggest that true communication is not confined to words or symbols alone but can be embedded in patterns, in proportions, and in the enduring forms that survive the erosion of centuries. The pyramids, in this sense, are letters written in stone, waiting patiently to be read by minds attuned to their rhythm. Science and speculation together illuminate the delicate interplay of message and mystery. We can measure alignments, detect voids, and analyze structural patterns, yet even as we document and calculate, a sense of wonder persists. Each new discovery raises further questions. Why was this chamber placed here? Why does this alignment correspond to a specific star? What purpose might a hidden void serve if not for the preservation of meaning? These questions are not distractions from understanding, they are part of it. They invite contemplation, meditation, and reflection, guiding the observer toward a gentle engagement with the unknown, where curiosity and reverence coexist. The possibility that messages were intentionally hidden beneath the pyramids also speaks to the patience of human thought. To create something designed to endure millennia is to acknowledge the fleeting nature of individual life and the enduring impact of human intention. The pyramids, in this view, are exercises in foresight, acts of faith in the ability of future generations to perceive, interpret, and learn. They remind us that some forms of communication require time, that understanding often emerges slowly, and that the act of leaving a message is itself an expression of hope, reflection, and continuity. To engage with these ideas is to enter a quiet meditation on the human impulse to transcend mortality through thought, creation, and intention. There is a subtle poetry in imagining who these future observers might be. Perhaps they will encounter the pyramids with curiosity, reverence, or awe. Perhaps they will feel the weight of centuries, the echo of effort, and the persistence of knowledge. The hidden messages, if they exist, may not speak in the language of words, but through structure, proportion, and alignment, through the quiet resonance of human intention embedded in stone. To consider this is to recognize that communication can exist in forms that transcend immediate perception, inviting the observer to slow down, reflect, and attune themselves to subtler rhythms of understanding. Messages left intentionally are also a meditation on the nature of legacy. What do we hope to leave behind? What forms of knowledge, insight, or guidance are worth preserving? The pyramids, with their hidden chambers and precise alignments, suggest that some truths are best preserved in ways that endure beyond the reach of time, in ways that encourage reflection and imagination rather than immediate comprehension. They teach patience, humility, and the gentle art of listening, reminding us that the most profound messages are often subtle, layered, and revealed only to those who are willing to engage deeply with their surroundings and their own curiosity. In imagining the pyramids as carriers of intentional messages, we are also invited to reflect on the continuity of human experience. The civilizations that built these structures were aware, consciously or instinctively, that their actions would echo far into the future. In this, there is a meditation on human responsibility, creativity, and foresight. The pyramids suggest that creation is not merely about the present but about resonance, about leaving traces that inspire, teach, and endure. They bridge the gap between the ephemeral and the eternal, the visible and the hidden, and the known and the imagined. Even as we consider the possibility of hidden messages, we are reminded of the interplay between discovery and patience. The pyramids do not rush revelation, they wait silently, enduringly, for those willing to explore with attention and care. The process of uncovering their meaning is as significant as any discovery itself. It is a slow, deliberate journey of reflection, a meditation that mirrors the passage of centuries, where curiosity, wonder, and patience converge to illuminate not only the structures themselves but the intentions and foresight of the human minds that created them. And so, beneath the sun and the shifting sands, in the stillness of time, the pyramids may carry whispers of wisdom, lessons from the past encoded in stone, alignment, and structure. They speak to those who listen with patience, who reflect with care, and who allow the mind to drift gently across the continuum of history. These messages, subtle and deliberate, invite a meditation on continuity, human intention, and the enduring power of creation. They remind us that knowledge can be preserved across millennia, that understanding is often layered and revealed slowly, and that the act of seeking itself is a profound form of engagement with both history and the human spirit. Beneath the pyramids, in chambers untouched by time, there may lie mysteries that challenge not only what we know of history, but what we believe about human possibility. These hidden spaces, insulated from wind, sand, and human interference, preserve a silence that is almost palpable, a quiet so deep that it seems to echo with the thoughts, intentions, and reverence of those who shaped them. In contemplating these subterranean depths, the mind begins to slow, following a rhythm set not by clocks or calendars, but by the patient unfolding of centuries, by the gentle cadence of time preserved within stone. Each void, corridor, or hidden room becomes a place of meditation, a space where reflection drifts freely between speculation and awareness, imagination and observation. The mysteries beneath the pyramids invite consideration of what knowledge might have been preserved intentionally, hidden to survive the erosion of centuries. Perhaps these spaces were designed to house wisdom too precious for immediate disclosure, knowledge meant to awaken slowly in minds ready to perceive it. Mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, or even an understanding of consciousness itself may have been encoded in the careful alignment of stones, the dimensions of chambers, or the orientation of hidden passages. Such encoding would speak to a civilization with foresight, patience, and reverence for the passage of time, aware that the value of knowledge is as much in its preservation as in its immediate application. To imagine this is to enter a gentle, contemplative space, allowing the mind to drift across the continuum of human curiosity and ingenuity. These hidden chambers also reflect the human impulse to communicate across time, a desire to bridge the present with the future. Every carefully placed stone may be a message, every corridor a pathway to understanding. And yet, the messages are not immediate, not obvious. They require attention, reflection, and care to interpret. The pyramids teach us that knowledge need not always be consumed quickly, that some truths are meant to unfold gradually, in layers, over centuries. The patience of those who built these structures mirrors the patience we are invited to cultivate as observers, allowing ourselves to be attuned to subtle signals, to quiet patterns, and to the rhythm of discovery itself. Science has offered glimpses of these subterranean mysteries, revealing voids and structural anomalies that suggest intent and precision beyond ordinary expectation. Ground-penetrating radar, cosmic ray imaging, and architectural analysis have hinted at spaces that may never have been entered, chambers whose purpose remains uncertain, yet whose presence implies careful planning and extraordinary understanding. The act of scientific observation is in itself a meditation, a slow unfolding of patterns, measurements, and possibilities that requires patience, attentiveness, and a willingness to accept ambiguity. The more we uncover, the more questions arise, and within this tension between discovery and uncertainty, a quiet rhythm of contemplation emerges. The hidden chambers beneath the pyramids also prompt reflection on the continuity of human curiosity. Across millennia, humans have sought to understand the world, to measure the stars, to preserve knowledge, and to communicate ideas that extend beyond immediate lifetimes. The pyramids, with their secret spaces, alignments, and proportions, may serve as both records and guides in this ongoing quest. They remind us that the act of seeking understanding is as significant as the knowledge itself, and that the journey through uncertainty and exploration is a meditation in patience, humility, and wonder. There is also a profound sense of scale and perspective in contemplating these hidden mysteries. The pyramids rise above the desert, monumental yet static, yet beneath them lies a subtler world, a labyrinth of possibility and intention. These spaces suggest that human achievement is not only measured in visible grandeur but in hidden depth, in the quiet care taken to preserve knowledge for future generations. The contrast between what is seen and what is hidden mirrors the contrast between human perception and cosmic time, encouraging the mind to expand gently, to consider the layers of understanding that lie beneath immediate observation, and to dwell in the quiet reverence of possibilities that endure beyond comprehension. The mysteries beneath the pyramids are also a meditation on patience. Centuries have passed above these hidden spaces while the chambers themselves remain almost untouched. Time, in this context, is not merely measured in years or eras, but in the slow preservation of intention and possibility. To contemplate these depths is to feel the heartbeat of history, a rhythm that flows beneath human memory, carrying with it the potential for discovery, insight, and reflection. The pyramids thus teach that understanding is not instantaneous. It unfolds gradually, quietly, and with persistence, much like the slow erosion of stone or the patient drift of sand over time. Even in their silence, these hidden chambers speak to human imagination and potential. They invite us to consider what knowledge may have been lost, what wisdom may lie quietly in wait, and how the past can continue to guide, challenge, and inspire the present. To dwell on these possibilities is to enter a calm, meditative state, a mental space where curiosity drifts without urgency, reflection deepens, and wonder becomes a gentle companion. In imagining the mysteries beneath the pyramids, the mind is encouraged to expand, to contemplate not only the structures themselves but the intentions, knowledge, and reverence of those who created them, connecting past and present in a slow, contemplative rhythm. Ultimately, the hidden chambers beneath the pyramids are more than spaces. They are invitations. Invitations to explore patiently, to reflect deeply, and to embrace uncertainty with calm curiosity. They encourage the observer to slow down, to attune to subtle rhythms, and to recognize that knowledge, like time, is layered, enduring, and often revealed gradually. In this meditation, we encounter both the majesty of human intention and the quiet power of possibility, learning that true understanding often emerges not from immediate observation but from patient reflection, attentiveness, and a willingness to dwell in the silent, enduring mysteries beneath the stones. And so, as the desert wind moves softly across the monumental stones, the hidden chambers remain, carrying whispers of intention, possibility, and wisdom. They remind us that beneath what is visible lies a universe of potential, preserved patiently across millennia, inviting reflection, imagination, and contemplation. The pyramids, in their silent endurance, offer a meditation on mystery, time, and human aspiration, a gentle invitation to drift into quiet thought, to sense the layers of history preserved beneath stone, and to allow the mind to move softly through the enduring mysteries that await discovery in the spaces hidden from sight. Across the long stretch of time, when wind and sand were the only witnesses to the rise and fall of kingdoms, the pyramids remained as quiet testaments to a level of precision that feels almost out of place in their age. When we look at them today, softened by erosion and stripped of their once polished casing stones, it is easy to forget that these structures were engineered with an accuracy that rivals, and sometimes surpasses, the tolerances of modern construction. Their sides face the cardinal directions with such consistency that even with contemporary tools, aligning a monument of this scale so perfectly would require careful calibration. Yet the builders of the Old Kingdom accomplished it with tools made of copper, stone, and unwavering patience. In their world, accuracy was not just a mathematical pursuit but a devotional act, a way of affirming harmony between human intention and the cosmos. The more we study the geometry and alignment of these pyramids, the more their builders seem to emerge not merely as laborers dragging stones, but as architects who understood their environment with profound intimacy. They were observers of the sky long before astronomy was formalized. They noticed the slow movements of stars, the seasonal arc of the sun, the shifting balance of shadows on the desert floor. These rhythms became the silent blueprints guiding their designs. The Great Pyramid's sides deviate from true north by an amount so small that many researchers believe the ancient engineers used the circumpolar stars, tracing their paths with simple sighting tools, letting the sky reveal the lines on which the monument would rise. This was not accidental brilliance. It was the product of generations of accumulated knowledge passed quietly from master to apprentice, refined through trial, tradition, and the persistent willingness to learn from nature itself. The stones that formed the pyramids, some weighing several tons, were shaped with remarkable consistency. Each one had to fit into a complex three-dimensional puzzle where the slightest misalignment could affect the stability of the whole structure. And yet the margins of error are surprisingly small. The gaps between some casing stones were so fine that ancient writers described them as barely admitting the thickness of a blade. Today we marvel at these details not because they seem magical but because they reveal a sophisticated understanding of craftsmanship that is too often underestimated. The precision was not the result of advanced machines or lost technologies. It emerged from patience, meticulous planning, and a communal dedication to a vision larger than any single generation. Their techniques may be debated, but their commitment is unmistakable. While much attention is given to the outer perfection of the pyramids, the internal passages offer a different layer of intrigue. Narrow shafts ascend through the body of the structure with astonishing straightness, despite the massive weight pressing down on them. Chambers are aligned with such care that they maintain balance and pressure distribution across millions of tons of stone. Even the simple act of keeping a passage level or a wall perpendicular required a deep understanding of geometry. Yet the builders achieved it, often in complete darkness, working by touch, instinct, and experience. These achievements are not merely feats of engineering. They are windows into a mindset that saw order and meaning in structure itself. When we try to imagine the day-to-day reality of constructing such a monument, it becomes clear that precision was not an occasional triumph but a constant priority. The positioning of stones, the mixing of mortar, the coordination of teams, each step required discipline and harmony. This was human ingenuity practiced not in isolation but in community. Thousands of individuals, from surveyors to stonemasons to water carriers and bakers, contributed to a shared endeavor that none of them would live to see fully completed. Their effort was part of a lineage, a contribution to a future they would never meet. In that continuity lies a form of engineering beyond mathematics, a social architecture, a structure built not only of stone but of trust, tradition, and collective aspiration. Modern researchers often debate the exact logistics of how the massive blocks were moved. Ramps, rollers, sledges, levers. Many models exist, each supported by evidence yet still incomplete. And while these debates continue, they quietly remind us that the true brilliance of the builders may lie not in a single method but in their willingness to adapt, refine, and innovate. What seems impossible to us today might have been entirely ordinary to them, embedded in their cultural knowledge, practiced since childhood. Their world was built on physical engagement with the materials around them. They understood stone through touch, gravity through labor, and alignment through years of observing the sky. Their expertise was embodied, intuitive, and cultivated over lifetimes. Sometimes, when we focus only on the technical aspects, we risk losing sight of the deeper philosophy behind the craftsmanship. Precision was not simply about constructing a functional monument. It was an expression of balance between earth and sky, permanence and transience. To shape stone with such intention was to participate in a cosmic order they believed governed both human life and the afterlife. The pyramid was not merely a tomb or a temple, it was a meeting point between worlds. And in that meeting point, every angle, every alignment, every stone had meaning. This fusion of engineering and spirituality gave their work a quiet power that still resonates through the centuries. In studying the precision of the pyramids, we are reminded that ancient knowledge was not primitive but deeply rooted in observation and lived experience. Where modern science relies on instruments, their science relied on patience, memory, and the slow accumulation of wisdom. What they lacked in technology, they compensated for with time-tested techniques and a cultural commitment to excellence. Their achievements encourage us to reconsider what human beings are capable of when they work with devotion, curiosity, and unity of purpose. The more we learn about these ancient builders, the more their world comes into focus, not as a civilization behind ours, but as one parallel in its own brilliance. Their accomplishments echo across millennia, inviting us to wonder not how they succeeded, but what we might achieve if we approached knowledge with the same calm persistence, the same love of harmony, and the same respect for the long stretch of time. Through the precision of their monuments, they left us a message carved silently into stone, that the pursuit of understanding is itself a form of immortality. Across the vast tapestry of human cultures, scattered across continents and separated by thousands of years, there exists a quiet resonance that feels strangely unified. Stories of floods, fires, great darkness, and sudden changes in the sky appear in places where no contact was ever known, carried through oral traditions, carved into stone, whispered in rituals, and etched into the imaginations of civilizations that believed themselves alone. These recurring tales do not feel like coincidences. Instead, they seem like distant reflections of something humanity once endured, remembered not in the language of science, but in the language of survival. Memory, when stretched across too many generations, transforms into symbolism, but beneath the symbols there may still lie a faint echo of truth. Ancient minds recorded what they could, using myth as their vessel, encoding fear and awe into stories that could outlive even the stones that held their empires together. In many cultures, the memory of a great flood is not told as a simple story of water, but as a moment when the world itself was washed clean. These myths may feel exaggerated to modern ears, yet scientists know that sea levels have risen and fallen dramatically, and that coastlines have shifted with terrifying speed. Entire regions that once were dry land now sleep beneath the ocean, and human settlements that thrived during the last ice age disappeared when glaciers melted and the sea advanced like a quiet, unstoppable tide. People living through such an event might not have had the words for climate cycles or glacial melt. They would have simply witnessed the world vanishing beneath water, and the memory of that trauma would have demanded to be carried forward. And so it was, generation after generation, until it crystallized into the myths we know today. In other places, the memory of fire dominates. Stories of skies darkened by ash, of seasons that failed, of sudden cold that followed a blinding brightness, are found in cultures far from volcanic belts. Scientists speak today of volcanic winters, of eruptions so vast they changed global weather patterns, cooling the earth and collapsing entire food chains. To a society without advanced tools or written records, such an event would have been overwhelming, inexplicable, and deeply symbolic. Fire was not simply fire, it was a divine retribution, a cosmic warning, or a rebirth of the world through destruction. The human mind interpreted catastrophe in the only way it could, through narrative, through the poetry of fear and resilience. Some traditions speak of days when the sun did not rise, or nights when the moon refused to brighten. These stories appear in indigenous memories, ancient chronicles, and early astronomical records. Modern science suggests that solar storms, meteor dust clouds, or distant volcanic eruptions could dim the sun for weeks or months. Such events, while temporary on a geological scale, would have felt eternal to the people experiencing them. Darkness is not merely an absence of light, it is an invitation for the mind to wander into deeper fears, to search for meaning in the shadows. Over time, the story of darkness becomes more than meteorology, it becomes a tale about the fragility of life and the mystery of the cosmos. Many of these remembered catastrophes have historical parallels. Some align with known geological events, others do not. Some likely exaggerate a real phenomenon, while others may be metaphors for something subtler, a century of famine compressed into a single symbolic moment, or a slow decline depicted as a sudden collapse. Yet what makes these stories remarkable is not their accuracy, but their persistence. Thousands of years after the last witnesses died, the memories remained alive, drifting forward through culture and language like fragile seeds carried by wind. In contemplating whether an earlier civilization might have existed, these collective memories offer a gentle reminder. Humanity has lived through cycles of struggle long before our written records began. If a complex society had flourished and then faltered tens of thousands of years ago, the physical evidence might have eroded beyond recognition, but the emotional shock could have survived in mythic form. Myths are containers of deep time, holding truths that are not literal but experiential. The collapse of a civilization, if witnessed even by a few small groups of survivors, might echo across countless generations in the form of stories about gods abandoning the world, about ages of gold replaced by ages of sorrow, or about the world resetting itself after human hubris reached too far. These stories, when viewed not as folklore but as cultural memory, create a sense of continuity between the ancient world and the modern one. They remind us that humans have always tried to understand the unpredictable rhythms of the planet, that we have always searched for meaning in disaster, and that we have always turned to storytelling as a way to preserve lessons too important to lose. Even today, our own fears about climate change, global instability, or technological collapse often take mythic forms in books, films, and collective imagination. In this way, we are no different from the ancestors who carved their warnings into stone or whispered them into the ears of their children. The possibility that these memories might reflect events experienced by unknown civilizations does not need to be sensational. It can simply be contemplative. It can invite us to consider that humanity's story may be longer, more cyclical, and more vulnerable than we typically assume. It can encourage us to listen closely, not just to the earth beneath our feet, but to the echoes carried within our cultures, the faint whispers of people who lived through darkness and water and fire, and who tried, in the poetic language available to them, to pass on what they learned. Whether or not a forgotten civilization once stood before us, these shared memories offer a peaceful reminder of our connection to deep time and to one another through the stories that have never entirely faded from human consciousness. Civilizations do not always end with a sudden crash or dramatic collapse. Often, their endings are quiet, subtle, almost imperceptible, like the fading of a song long after its last note. Populations may dwindle slowly over decades, families migrate in search of fertile land, resources may deplete, and traditions that once bound communities together gradually dissolve. The end of a society is rarely a single event. It is a series of small, cumulative occurrences, each one quietly eroding the structures that held people together. In imagining a civilization lost to time, it is worth contemplating these gentle fades, these invisible collapses that leave almost no trace in the geological record, yet profoundly shape the trajectory of life that follows. The silence of an ending can be as powerful as the noise of disaster. Environmental change is often at the heart of these quiet conclusions. Shifts in rainfall, soil fertility, or temperature may slowly render once thriving lands inhospitable. Crops fail in subtle ways, rivers shift course, and resources that supported entire communities vanish over generations. The people living through these slow transformations may not even perceive a crisis until it has nearly completed itself. Adaptation may become impossible when change is relentless and gradual, and societies can diminish without dramatic scenes, leaving only faint impressions on the land, traces too delicate for archaeologists to uncover centuries later. In this way, nature participates in the quiet conclusion, reshaping landscapes, reclaiming buildings, and erasing footprints as gently and persistently as time itself. Cultural loss often accompanies demographic decline. Knowledge once carefully preserved may be forgotten, rituals may be abandoned, and artistic expressions may fade with the people who practice them. Oral histories, songs, and stories pass from generation to generation, but when communities fragment or disperse, these threads unravel. In a lost civilization, this quiet fading of culture may have been more decisive than any natural disaster. Without observers, without successors to carry the memory forward, the richness of a society can disappear almost entirely, leaving only subtle signs. Unusual soil compositions, isolated artifacts, or genetic markers that hint at a once complex human presence. Civilization, in this light, is not only what is built or invented, it is what is remembered, practiced, and shared. When memory itself fades, so too does the civilization. Conflict, too, can end civilizations gently rather than violently. Neighboring groups may absorb smaller communities, or internal divisions may weaken social cohesion over generations. Wars, when not documented or memorialized, leave little evidence. Political fragmentation can occur without dramatic battles, and leadership structures may slowly dissolve. Even the most resilient societies can succumb to internal pressures over time, their collapse marked not by a single catastrophe but by a gradual unraveling of networks, relationships, and systems of knowledge. The end, in this sense, is a quiet transformation rather than a spectacle, a return to simpler forms of human existence that survive only in small pockets. Sometimes, the quiet end of a civilization can be almost invisible to future generations. Cities may sink into forest or desert, roads may vanish beneath shifting sands, and monumental structures may erode beyond recognition. Where archaeologists see ruins, the people of the future might see nothing but empty land. The most profound lessons of a civilization's quiet ending are embedded not in grand monuments but in the subtle ways the earth remembers. The arrangement of stones, the traces of irrigation, the layers of sediment that suggest sustained human activity. Even when the story is almost entirely lost, there is evidence of a human heartbeat that once pulsed with care, ingenuity, and hope. There is also a philosophical beauty in this quiet ending. It reminds us that the measure of a civilization is not always in its duration or the fame of its achievements, but in the lived experiences of those who existed within it. The rise and fall, the subtle fading, the gradual dissolution, all are part of the natural rhythm of life. In contemplating a lost civilization, we are invited to reflect on the impermanence of our own societies, to recognize that continuity is fragile, and to appreciate the ephemeral nature of human endeavor. There is serenity in acknowledging that endings can be soft, that collapse does not always arrive with violence, and that even in silence, meaning endures. Finally, imagining the gentle endings of civilizations can bring a sense of perspective and calm. It allows us to release the need for dramatic narratives, to rest in the knowledge that loss does not always equate to failure. Like the quiet ebb of a river that reshapes the land over centuries, the gradual disappearance of a civilization is part of the natural flow of history. The rise and fall of societies, repeated endlessly across deep time, invite contemplation and wonder. They remind us that human life, while fleeting, is part of a much larger story, one in which endings are not catastrophic finales but transitions, delicate and inevitable, returning energy, memory, and spirit to the endless cycle of existence. In this quiet reflection, we can find solace, understanding, and a gentle readiness to sleep, carried by the rhythm of time itself. There is a quiet idea that lingers around the edges of ancient architecture, not because we have failed in our efforts, the people who built these monuments were not merely to be preserved in silence, but expressing a worldview through thermal imaging, scan with nuance and relationships, and study ancient texts. When we look at the pyramids today, it is tempting to imagine that their builders resist exploration and layers of earth. Yet the deeper we study these structures, the more we sense that their work emerged from a kind of intuitive reminder of limits, one not written in textbooks or formal equations. Some mysteries are not observations, repetitions, and to contemplate dialogue with nature what has been lost. In this way, the pyramids feel like the humility required to approach history with reverence. That did not separate the physical from the spiritual, more than monuments, the practical from the symbolic, teachers of restraint, the measurable from the meaningful, quiet. And this keepers of enigmas begins with geometry through time. The pure language even in their incompleteness, long before humans wrote in ink, speak to us. They drew circles in dust, we choose to listen. Shadows on stone. They tell of labor and devotion that no longer has a visible record. Tools of knowledge and intention. They discovered patterns that repeated everywhere, shielded by centuries of sand and horizons. Spirals secret chambers, whether fully accessible or merely suggested by shadows. They saw the world the weight of human ambition and curiosity woven with mathematical threads. That understanding the pyramids is rarely immediate, worldview with striking clarity. Slowly, their proportions and ratios may never be fully grasped. Their slopes align with preservation of these spaces, and their positions correspond, inviting us to dwell in reflection, though rather than rushing to explanation about their intentions, and to appreciate the consistency of these patterns needing to possess ancient builders were guided by there is a poetic justice in the hidden. Principles the very not merely practical, gives but these spaces a different kind of significance. Music, too, they are untouched by modern role in ancient untainted by contemporary interpretation, believed that sound shaped by the certainty that accompanies discovery. Reflected the hidden order of the universe. Becomes a form of speech, the same ratios that transmitted not intervals appear in the geometry of through absence and preservation. Whether intentional these or hidden coincidental, mirror the human overlap hints at a human place where memories, to create structures that resonate with our natural quietly. Sometimes beyond with their massive chambers and long shaping our perception may have captured sound in a way that amplified back some of their secrets, meditation, remind us that some of the most meaningful experiences are those that how ancient people used acoustics or imagined rather than that these spaces respond to harmonious frequencies of these hidden spaces also highlight as both the remarkable resilience of the pyramids themselves. Early engineers also possessed a subtle understanding of materials, have not erased the intention behind the stones, even if they have buried portions and endurance. The structures remain coherent and purposeful despite the gaps in what we can observe. Cracked under pressure or aligned without lesson about permanence. They studied the cooling of desert human effort and the swelling heat of the design can survive even when portions are in its purest form. The hidden chambers are not but failures of preservation. But confirmations that these observations accumulated into a practical wisdom that allowed ancient builders to consider the invisible threads that connect human effort across time. Their knowledge may not have been written down in never fully accessible, but it was preserved undeniably real. Memories, some of the traditions of countless reflections arise when we consider what is acted as another dimension of ancient science. Perhaps some chambers were meant to protect sacred objects, symbols were not rituals that required understanding existence. Perhaps some corridors were designed to remain empty, a circle resonating not with sound, and a triangle but with the possibility of discovery. These symbols guided architecture in ways that blended function but a thoughtful choice. The pyramid, with its testament to the understanding that some knowledge is becomes more than a sacred or better experience about humanity rising towards it is an acknowledgement that human curiosity, a deity, powerful or a concept must also be tempered with respect. The alignment of its sides with the cardinal points grounds it in the physical aspects of themselves. While its perfect geometry suggests a connection revelation and mystery. Action in this way, stillness, the pyramid becomes an intersection of worlds. These concealed tangible and also encourage reflection on our own relationship with knowledge. It is possible that these ideas, certainty, geometry, tangible evidence, material science, understanding, symbolism, yet the pyramids remind us that older intellectual meant to remain beyond human knowledge may have flowed like a river. This does not diminish their value, narrowing across eras. It amplifies, sometimes advancing the act of contemplating the hidden. Imagining the Ice Age brought dramatic environmental and acknowledging may have erased earlier forms of structured wisdom becomes a form of meditation. Could have washed away in this contemplative state. Climate the listener could have to accept uncertainty, to
Oral
embrace
traditions
wonder,
once
and to
vibrant
rest in the
could have
beauty of
flickered
the
out
unknown.
as tribes migrated,
The pyramids, in
merged,
holding
or
back some of their
disappeared.
secrets,
What
are
remained
teaching a
may have
lesson
been
that
fragments,
transcends
echoes
archaeology,
of a deeper
that
system
restraint,
of understanding,
reflection, and
carried
openness
forward
are
into the
essential
grand
companions
projects
in the
of later
pursuit of knowledge.
civilizations.
The
Even with
pyramids
modern
stand as
technology
physical
and global
nodes of this memory.
collaboration,
We
their
recognize that
endurance
some
suggests
chambers will
intention,
never be
and their
explored,
precision
some
suggests
corridors may
inheritance.
remain unreachable,
They look like the
and some
culmination of
artifacts
ideas
may
refined
forever
over
lie buried.
centuries.
This
Maybe
is not
even
failure
millennia,
but continuity.
Whether this lineage
hidden
began in
chambers
small
connect us to the
communities
builders
along
across
ancient
centuries,
rivers,
or in
preserving
cultures
the
now
tension
buried
between
under
the seen
oceans or
and
deserts.
unseen,
Its
essence
unknown
appears
and
in the
unknowable.
universal human
In this
impulse
quiet,
to align
there is
with
a subtle
nature's
reassurance
order.
that the
stone
past
circles
retains
in
its
Britain
richness,
stepped
even when
pyramids in
incomplete,
Mesoamerica,
and that the act
from the
of preserving,
astronomical towers of
concealing,
India
and
to the rock
protecting
hewn
can be as
complexes
meaningful
of
as the
Ethiopia,
act of creating
humanity
itself.
has repeatedly
It is a
created
reminder
structures
that history
reflect
is
a
as
shared
much about what
intuitive
we
science,
experience and
one that
imagine
sees
as
the
it is
world
about
as
what we
interconnected,
uncover.
patterned,
Ultimately,
and alive
the
with
secrets
meaning.
that remain hidden
As we look
beneath
at the pyramids now,
invite
we can
calm,
imagine their
reflection,
builders not
and a
as
deep
isolated
sense of
engineers,
humility,
but as
they
inheritors
remind us
of
that
ancient
discovery
knowledge,
is not
practicing
always
a
immediate,
form of science
that some
that
truths
merged
are slow
observation
to
with
reveal
spirituality,
and that
precision
mystery
with
is a
aesthetics,
gift rather than
and
an absence.
practicality with
By
cosmic
embracing
curiosity.
the unseen,
Their
we
work
enter
did
a
not
state of
require
meditation
modern
that
technology
honors
to
human
achieve
effort,
brilliance,
reverence
it
for
required
time,
attention,
and the enduring
patience,
resonance of
memory,
structures
and a
built with
worldview that
devotion
placed
and care.
humanity within
In
a larger
resting with
cosmic
these hidden
narrative.
chambers,
These
we learn
blueprints of
patience,
forgotten science
cultivate
remind
wonder,
us that
and
knowledge
recognize
is
that
not
some of the
always
most
linear,
profound
and that
lessons of
human
history are
understanding may
found not in
rise
what
and
is visible,
fall like
but in what
civilizations
quietly
themselves.
remains.
What
Preserving
survives
its
in
presence
stone may
across
only be
millennia
the
and
visible
teaching us
portion
to
of a
listen,
vast intellectual
imagine,
iceberg,
and reflect.
the tip of a lineage so long, so deep, and so intertwined with the rhythms of nature that we can only glimpse its true form by listening quietly to what the stones still want to say.